true, yeah. No longer will we stand here like we don't have a clue. You treat us like we have no value, but Jah will see us through. So we got to hold on, don't let go. Got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. Hold on, and don't let go. Got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. I know sometimes it feels like this cross is too much to bear. I know sometimes it feels like you can't shed another tear. I know sometimes it feels like there ain't nobody to care. When you feel consumed with fear, Jah will be there. So you got to hold on and don't let go. Got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. Hold on and don't let go. Got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. Daddy gone and run left mommy cause he can't handle the heat. He full of deceit. Now she have 4 mouths to feed and ain't got no food to
deliberate and
eat.
spontaneous. These probably map
Now
on
she have to
different
work 2 jobs
aspects
just
of
to try to make ends meet.
more cortical elements, more
And she
limbic
send a big
elements.
son out a road to sing on this reggae beat. So she's got to hold on. She won't let go. She's got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. Hold on and don't let go. Got to be strong, never give up, never, no, no, no. No longer will we stand here and be judged by you. No longer will we stand here like we don't know what's wrong from true, yeah. No longer will we stand here like we don't have a clue. You treat us like we have no value, but Jah will see us through. So we got to
It seems to me we all lost touch in this world, and a friendship is through. And while around there's lots of hating, I would love for this all to diffuse. 'Cause I've left you and my sorrows, and you are not to blame. 'Cause when it all boiled down, it's time that I turn around and face my fears. I too It seems to me that fate has crushed things that we never thought we would lose. And while around there's lots of anger, well, I won't hang my head and approve. 'Cause I've left you and my sorrows. You are not to blame. 'Cause when it all boiled down, it's time that I turn around and face my fears. I too, whoa, whoa, la da da da. And my love, well, it changed. Whoa, no one is to blame. 'Cause when it all crashes down, it helps to turn it around and face your fears. I too, Hello, we are back in the studio. This is Spiger, and I'm here with Leahy, and we were just discussing something that I think is a fair issue to talk about. We wanted to start off this week. We're going to be talking about mind poison, and we're going to take a look into gossip and what actually that is. First, we wanted to talk a little bit about something that's not really new, but it is an issue in some people's life, I guess. It's this new sandwich. It's from KFC, and it just kind of surprised me that we're at a point now where we just figure, I mean, I know sometimes we can, you know, it was one thing to add cheese into the crust of a pizza. Mm-hmm. You know, that's, some would say that's overdoing it. But when you take a sandwich and then say, you know what, instead of bread, why don't we just use chicken?
Interesting. Chicken
strips, chicken patties, whatever you want to call it. Are we really there? Are we really at that point now where we're using chicken instead of bread?
Yeah.
What is the country coming to?
I don't.
If somebody would have told me that,
It's like I don't get it. I have a friend who, I think it was some way they changed the sandwich, and I think it doesn't have bread, but it's wrapped in lettuce or something like that, or
a wrap or something like that.
Yeah, but it's a burger.
Yeah,
burgers belong with
burger
buns.
Wrap. That's different.
And he said it's disgusting. I don't know if it's disgusting now. But why? Burgers belong in buns. It just sounds like burger buns. That's why they call burger buns. Okay? I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah. If somebody would have told me that, hey, we made you a sandwich, and it's got bacon and cheese. It's really good.
We should look
but we didn't have any bread, so we just used chicken. So, you know, I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I thought it seemed like something that a kid probably would come up with. No disrespect to the person who came up with it, because I mean, I guess they're selling well. Mm-hmm. You know, why wouldn't it? Because this is a very food-driven country. You know? Mm-hmm. It feeds the heart of the country, and I know it sells well in the South because we are some fried chicken eating folk. Mm-hmm. You know,
I'm tempted to look it up in the dictionary, the word sandwich, simply because
we can look
I heard that KFC, is it wrong to say this on the thing? No, but I heard that KFC had to changed their name from Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC because their chickens didn't have feathers. And the definition of a chicken, if you look in Webster Dictionary, it has a bird. I'm certain that it names the qualities, but it has feathers. And because their chickens didn't have feathers, they had to change it to KFC because of, I guess, the steroid they were using to make the chickens reproduce faster or to grow faster and to make them bigger. So I heard that from my cousin at the family reunion, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there's bread.
Now see, sandwiches can come in all different shapes and sizes. Doesn't mean that it has to be, but by a definition, a sandwich is a food item often consisting of 2 or more slices of bread. B-R-E-A-D, bread, with 1 or more fillings between them, or 1 slice of bread with a topping or toppings, commonly called an open sandwich, because it doesn't have a top, piece, or layer of bread. So this new KFC thing, I don't know that we can call it a sandwich. By definition, it doesn't. It's good though, I hear.
So yeah, I agree. Well, I guess that's. Well, I remember that you have to be careful when talking about certain products. So no disrespect to the food chain. We'll just
yeah, I mean
not,
that's to be understood.
I've eaten there.
You know, I eat there regularly. What my big thing is about that, it just surprised me.
Yeah.
Like you walk in to your room and it's upside down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surprise. If everything's in place, it's like, oh, well, you know, maybe I'm dreaming. It could be something. But enough about that, because I know no matter what people may think, and I think that most of the people who eat it had that same concept that, yeah, this thing is okay. Yeah, but it's not a sandwich. Anyway, what we're gonna do, we're gonna give you a little bit more music, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna discuss this whole thing about gossip. And it was purposely done, and I let it go this way because the thing that was brought up about the featherless chicken, what was it founded on? Where did it come from? I'm talking about what Leahy said when she came to the mic and said what she did about it, because she heard it somewhere. That's going to lead us into our section on gossip.
It's not a fact.
What is gossip? Is gossip bad? Can it be helpful? Is it useful? Is there good gossip and bad gossip? We're going to deal with all of that when we come back. But right now, we're just going to play some music, because that's one of the other things that we do here is we play music. And I'll be right. See, this week I'm pulling double duty, and I'm trying to stall while I pull up this thing. What is it called? Utah.
All right. We have a viewer that their opinion on what we said earlier was probably due to the increase in bread prices. That could be. That could be the reason.
That is very true.
That might be it. Because I recall many a times younger, when we're out of bread in the house, just eating the meat. You ever just ate lunch meat?
Yeah. And
put some mayonnaise on it,
there
mustard, wrap
go.
it in some lettuce. There's no bread left. I come from a household with many siblings and 2 parents, and working to make ends meet, and sometimes the bread ran out.
Meat.
So, yes. So.
Ends meet. Okay, but we're gonna get into this next artist you heard. The first person you heard was Ross Starr, Aaron Marquez. He's on Reverb Nation. The song was called "Hold On," and he's a very, he's been a supporter of Spaghetti Earth for some years now, and we've been in talks and everything, and you know, looking to the future for some things to happen there. But the next artist we're going to play is another big supporter, one who is not necessarily new to Reverb Nation. He's been up for a little while now, but also a Reverb Nation artist. Before he was that, he was, you know, he's a mixtape king right now in his own right, the CEO of Iron Sharp Entertainment.
Yeah.
He goes by the name of Chinko, and the song is called Walk By. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. Here we go.
Yeah. What up, young scone? Hey, this the one we've been talking about for a minute. Know the Rostetta. Yeah, I got them all in my Chinko song. Chico, chill, before the beats made me. The streets raised me, even as of today, couldn't say that it didn't faze me. Victim of the struggle these days, trying to age me could quickly come to an end, so I gotta slow down the pace. I look to the hills before I turn the page, ain't looking to burn bridges, would it be too religious? I would go to church, but they seem too religious, steady checking out my jeans like, ain't true religion. Decisions, guess I'll go and take a chance, soon you truly understand why this mic is in my hand. Shouldn't we be more focused on than the plan? Instead of concentrating on the branding on my pants, I would sit, but I was instructed to take stands, so I couldn't be reluctant even if I did rant. I gotta keep spilling, you could give it a try, and if you still don't feel me, you could walk on back. I'm an opportunist, all I wanna do is try. Big things popping, I can make your wings fly. If all you really got for me is the money and the power, no thanks, homie, you could walk on by. Walk on by, walk on by. Whatever the man selling, just tell him I won't buy. Walk on by, walk on by. Walk on by, walk on by. Dude spit ill, ain't that the truth? Plus also let the damage young and do up in the booth. Yeah, recognize knowledge, homie, put me under wing. Offered a proposal, but I never seen the ring. Yeah. Guess our feelings are not the same. I'm in love with the flow, but I couldn't marry the game now. As my phone ringing off the chain, I refuse to entertain you for a little bit of change. Nah, I ain't tripping, I'ma get in where I fit in, not to fit in. Plus I really don't need a second opinion, except that I'm already exceptional with the pen, and very well respected in a game full of trends. Gotta separate the businessman from your real friend, the one who sticks by you when the money blowing in the wind. If all you really got for me is the money and the power, you could do yourself a favor, please walk on by. I'm an opportunist, all I wanna do is try. Big things popping, I can make your wings fly. If all you really got for me is the money and the power, no thanks, homie, you could walk on by. Walk on by, walk on by. Whatever the man selling, just tell him I won't buy. Walk on by, walk on by. Walk on by, walk on by. Yeah. I guess what I'm really trying to say is, for all those who are mobile and ulterior motives, you should please get to know a person before you go on a person. It just may backfire. I'm too hip for the trickery of your misery. Yeah. No cut on card, like no cut on raw. Feel me.
Thank you, Chinko. That was Walk On By none other than the CEO of Iron Sharp Entertainment, Chinko. Iron Sharp Entertainment, Chinko, who has a mixtape coming out early next year called January Fever. Can you feel it? It's getting kind of hot. But yes, we're going to go into our subject matter for today. And one of the things I want to open up with is a little bit of definition. If you go to www.wisegeek.com, ask the question, what is gossip? Gossip can be defined in many ways. It's a very broad term because some people who are involved with it don't see anything wrong with it. And others, when it hurts somebody, then it becomes a problem. But by definition, we're going to open up with the definition or a definition of it. Gossip, like I said, is a broad term and is defined in several ways. In general, gossip involves the creation and repetition of rumors regarding an individual who is not present to offer his or her perspective on the purported events under discussion. Now that's from www.wisegeek.com. What is gossip? Based on that definition, I think the part that sticks out to me mostly is the imbalance of it. What's the difference between gossip and truth? What would you say is the difference in your mind about gossip and truth? What's the difference? I'm going to, and you can, for those who are listening live, you can, if you have the mechanism to chat, we're going to open that up so you can put in your input and we will read them on the air. But what is the difference between gossip and truth? They're both proclaiming something.
Well, when you gave the definition, it made me think of the game Telephone and how when you play the game as a child, someone says something and you repeat it, and then it goes through different mouths, and once it gets to the end, more times than not, you'll have a totally different statement than the person who began the game started with. So it can start off as a truth. It can start off with someone maybe telling you an event that occurred, but I don't know. I think gossip is not. It doesn't deal with truth. Gossip doesn't deal with truth because I don't think good comes from gossip, and good comes from the truth.
Well, that's what I was looking at, because for some people they're involved with it all the time, and when it was coined, what we understand it today is not necessarily what it may have started out for. When you hear something, people want to know the latest this and the latest that. What is it about gossip that draws people in? There's a lack of foundation, and the key to it is that if it's concerning a person, first of all, if the person who is the subject is not there or able to offer his or her side of what's going on, and you operate in what's said as though it's the full truth, that to me is gossip.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
I think that's the main thing, is that the other person isn't there to defend themselves. And many times I think of how you vent sometimes when you go through something. I had a personal situation that I went through, and rather than bottling it all up and just harboring feelings for a certain individual, I would talk to my friend about it. Well, I had two friends in particular that I talked to about it. And one day, I wanted to help this particular person that I would talk about all the time. I wanted to help them out, and I needed their assistance. And they said they found themselves looking at the person in a negative way, because whenever I talked about them, it was in a negative way. And my opinion of the way they treated me became their opinion toward the person when they never really had contact with the person. Right. So that didn't do any good. It really damaged the person's image in their eyes, because I never had anything good to say about them. All I said was the negative, and she offended me this way, and she did this and she did that. I can't stand. She just does. And then I go about to say what I think her thinking patterns are. And that goes back to last week with the judging. You can't judge somebody's heart or know what they think, but for me to speak it as truth, that she acts this way because she is this way, that's not truth, and therefore it becomes gossip.
And it can, the thing is though, it affects other people. And you know what I find surprising, but it's not an unusual find, is that most times people who gossip don't consider themselves gossips. They just are conveying information. You know, you're conveying information from one person to another, but if the something that you're conveying is not true, and you're passing it on as if it was true, it's gossip. And you don't have to consider yourself a gossip to be one.
Exactly.
You know, sometimes it may not be a lifestyle, but for some people, to know the latest this, to have the latest that, latest news, what is it that draws people to gossip? That's the next question. What is it about having having this information? Why does it draw people? What is appealing about it?
That made me think of paparazzis and magazines, period, and how they twist the story to make it look. It's always the bad news seems to be the best news in America. You can see what's going on overseas and be like, oh my gosh, there is another suicide bombing or a car bomb and this, that, and the other. But if you look at Yahoo, you pull up Yahoo, you'll see some entertainer. Oh goodness, I'm saying names again. But if you look at magazines, the top story is usually something to do with a celebrity. Right. And many times it's painting that celebrity in a negative light. It isn't trying to in any way build that person up, and people flock to it. That's how they make money. And I don't know, would you say that people like to hear gossip because it makes them feel better about themselves when you hear about someone else in a negative fashion?
The thing is, though, it goes back to that old saying, knowledge is power. If you know something about somebody that they don't know you know, then you feel like you've gained some sort of leverage or power. But the thing about gossip is it's unbalanced. The other side has not been presented. So it's going to be an unbalanced grouping of facts or information. You know, it could be factual, the things that are said, but the way it's presented takes away from it. You know, it doesn't always have to be untrue to be false. You know, you can present true facts, but in a wrong way. But if your goal in all of it is to hurt someone or to bring someone down, that's when we look at it in a negative light. If it's something that you heard, I heard, building a reputation for somebody. Yeah. You know, eats lightning and craps thunder kind of thing. Building a person up. That's from Rocky, come on. But it makes the person seem larger than life. And in that sense, you're building a reputation for somebody, but it really isn't true. And I'm not talking about just an exaggerated thing, but if, you know how you say, John Henry came over today, and, that guy's strong. He lifted one side of that dresser up by himself and just dragged it on out the door. And then somebody else said, really? He dragged that thing out the door himself? Tell somebody, man, John Henry came in here and picked that dresser up and took it out the door himself. And then by the time it gets to person number 27, man, John Henry stacked 12 dressers on his back and carried it upstairs. And they live upstairs. You know, so he's out on the... You can take it so many ways and twist it, but you still paint the person in a untrue light. So that's gossip.
And it made me think of the first scripture I thought of was in James when it talks about the tongue. And I'm going to read it. I'll start it in James chapter 1. I'll start at verse 2. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy." Oh no, I'm on the wrong page. Sorry. Chapter 3. I'm sorry. James chapter 3, verse 2, it says, "For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man and able to bridle his whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body." And then I'm going to skip on down to 5, and it says, "Even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. so is the tongue among many members, that it defileth the whole body,
The whole body.
and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beast, and of bird, and of serpent, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison.
My God.
And that, of course, makes me think of the song "Order My Steps," where she says, "Bridle my tongue, let my words edify." A horse is turned about by the bit in its mouth. When the conductor or the person driving it or riding it moves it a certain way, that's the way the horse goes. The horse follows its mouth, and that's what the person riding it is in control of. So it shows the power of your words.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, well, I just said she's a monkey. You know, you may say something in anger and cool off, and later you're fine. But those words went into somebody else's spirit, went into someone else's mind, and now they have that thought of that person, and it can't be shaken. Do you see? So when we speak, when we gossip, even if it's in a good way, or what we may call good, an exaggeration of the truth, it's not true. And it can affect who you're talking about.
You have to keep in mind too, where does it come from? It's based on speculation. You see the surface and you boast about the root. You know the root because you see the surface. That's not always true. You can know the type of tree by the fruit that it bears. But just looking at the surface, you may think you see, but you don't really see what you think you see. You can see somebody in a negative light. You can see somebody who's had a bad day. You can see somebody who just got off work and is tired. Man, what's wrong with them? Someone staggering into their house. Oh, they've been out all night. They've been doing this and they've been doing that. Well, what if they're coming from a revival? You know, your speculation can cause destruction to a person's reputation.
Exactly.
And it's basically dealing with the surface. Even when it's considered good, I would say that it makes sense, and it is good for you to double check the facts.
Exactly.
It's nothing wrong with saying, how do you know? Or where'd you hear that from?
Exactly.
If you ask somebody where'd they hear it from, it just implies that they don't have a real foundation for what they've heard. You know,
That makes me think of how you ask somebody, where'd you hear that? My auntie, cousin's brother, sister twice removed told me. Because she told her that he said, and then when the he said and the she said comes in, you kind of wonder, okay, is this accurate? Just like what was stated earlier, my cousin said that I don't know where he got the information. That's what I heard. So I'm not certain, and I can't say take this as fact because I know, because I was at the farm myself and I saw these chickens. So you have to be mindful, just in general, you have to be mindful of what you say and what you listen to, because if what you hear is something that really invokes emotion in you, you'll be ready to tell somebody else, do you know what so-and-so said? And it brings about something in you. That's why in James, it's talking about the power of your tongue and the influence it has. God, now we're not on the par with God, but he spoke the world into existence.
Right.
He spoke it, and it is, and it hasn't stopped existing until he said, be no more.
and that in lies the difference. When God speaks, it's so. God is a sovereign, and just because he said it, it's so. It's true. When we say things, we say it based off of what we've heard, maybe studied, maybe experienced. Our experiences are not truth necessarily. I was with him, and this is how he was with me. So I don't need nobody to tell me nothing else. I know the man. I seen how he act. Man, that's just how he is. Is it really? Or is that your experience with him?
I guess that's
You know, that's surface. That's experience. That's your experience, but it's not the truth. The truth behind that is that it was really your experience with him, but that's not who he is.
exactly.
And in the same light, when you spread word that you don't, you spread word as if it is true when it's Jason. only. Y'all know his voice.
You spread word that's opinionated as if it is truth, you do make yourself a liar. Because in the way you speak it, you speak it as if you know for certain. And that's the problem God has with gossiping. Now, back in the Bible days, it may not have necessarily been called gossiping, but I looked up a couple of words that were given to me. One was murmuring, and
That's good.
and backbiting. Now, I looked up backbiting. It said to speak slanderously or spitefully about a person. Backbiting involves the element of deceit and cowardice. It's talked about in Romans chapter 1 verse 30 for those who want to look it up. And it's listed, it says backbiters in the same verse as Paul is talking about haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, and the list goes on. You can read it for yourself. But God, and it also says it involves cowardice.
Yeah.
So you're spreading words about a person. We already talked about the power of the tongue and the influence it'll have on the voices, on the ears that it reaches. So, and you'll have a complete picture painted of someone before the person is even met. You don't even know how God would want to use that person.
Exactly.
And you'll be interfering with what God wants. That doesn't mean you'll stop it, but you will be getting in the way.
And one of the most, I guess a theme word for gospel is too. When you hear that, you know, okay, yeah, because they heard something, and now I know something because of what I heard. Now, when you heard this, how far with it did you go? There's nothing wrong with hearing something. What did you do with what you heard?
That's good.
Did you take what you heard and run with it, or did you look into it? Because there's nothing wrong with hearing something. And this is not to get on that part. You can hear something, and it could be rumored, but as far as you know, it's just a snippet of something from somewhere else. You can't, in a word, say who somebody is, except God, who is I am. Look into that. But I mean, I'm glad you brought up the term backbiting, because even in Islam, they have a view of what backbiting is, and they look at that as the equivalent of eating the flesh of one's dead brother who is not there to defend himself. You're eating his flesh, and he can do nothing to defend himself. That's what backbiting is. That's sick. In the literal and in the spiritual sense. That's sick. If you can tear down a person who's not there to see it, it's like, my goodness, I might go somewhere with this, but it's like voodoo. With the dolls, the person's not there to defend themselves, but yet they're feeling this pain. Why am I going through this? Why every time I go into this place, these people looking at me like that? Because somebody said something, and somebody else listened. And they didn't just listen, but they conveyed it, and they may have added a little seasoning themselves. Put a little soy sauce on it before you pass it along. And then by the time if you add too much to something, even if the seasoning is good, too much of anything is not good. You add a sprinkle of this and pass the dish. You sprinkle a little of that. By the time it gets to the end of the table, it's going to taste awful. And nobody's going to want it. They're going to push it away. What is it supposed to be? It's rice. No, it's not. Looks like oatmeal. What did you put in this thing? You know, it's not what it started off as. Just like telephone.
Exactly. It's funny. That makes me think of how if someone's been talking about someone and they walk in the room and the room gets quiet and everybody looks at the person, and you're like,
workplace.
Okay, were you talking about me? And that's how it is, because, and that's where that cowardice comes in, like what you read, because you have all the attitude in the world, your neck's rolling, and the are going, and she should be ashamed of herself, or he ain't got no business. You can say all of that, but as soon as a person walks up, hi, well, how you doing? And there goes that two-facedness. And there you go, that's a lie. When you have these feelings toward your brother or your sister or a person in general, and instead of confronting them about it and telling them, you know, when you did such and such, that bothered me, or you seem to be, when I talk to people, I usually say, it looks like you're doing this, you sound like, you seem to be, and so forth, because they may not necessarily mean it that way. Mm-hmm. But for me to go to someone else, and even when I talk to other people, it seems like she is this, that, and the other. It comes across because of these actions. Mm-hmm. So it's just important. You have to be mindful because, like you said, it can be someone on a bad day. People can change. You see ministers and preachers and people who live for God and who are sold out, who had a past. And if you were so caught up in who they were when they walked in the pulpit, what he doing up in the pulpit? And you can't think and you can't listen to what he's saying, and God is bringing the word forth, but you're so caught up in who he was. He's a new creature. He's a butterfly. He's not a caterpillar, and he's never going to be a caterpillar again. So because the metamorphosis took place, that's not even him anymore. But you're so caught up. I seen him crawling and making cocoons. No, he's someone else now. So it's important to be mindful of what you say, how you say it, because those words will travel past to the future, past that person's transformation, because they may not even be that way anymore.
And two, like what you were saying, that makes me think about being like it makes you like almost like a scavenger / cannibal. Because another word they used I found was busybody.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
For busybody, it actually specifically says a gossipy, meddlesome person, one who pries into affairs of others. That's where the scavenger part comes in. If you know anything about a hyena, they're notorious for their scavenging ability. Their ability to enter into a conflict that has already taken place and get what they can get out of it for themselves, leaving nothing but carrion, if that's the term for useless flesh, behind. And even with hyenas, they devour the bones as well. So before you know it, you'll be left with nothing. And if you want to find backbiting, that's in the Bible too. If you go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 11, or start at verse 9, not because we have power, but to make ourselves an ensample unto you to follow us. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. So to be a scavenger requires no work. It requires simply your influence, the power that you invoke on them of yourself to show power to get what you want out of it.
I completely agree. The nature of a scavenger, I wanted to get to that part. The feeding on dead flesh. You didn't work for the kill, but you're getting the afterwards. Vultures fly high, out of reach, cowardly. I'm not saying they're cowards, but I'm just saying if we look at it in that sense of people in action and behaviors, if we liken them to vultures being high above the situation and just observing what's going on, and once the others have moved out of the way, they go to the dead carcass and eat what is left of them, devouring the dead.
Yeah.
You know, that's a spiritual crisis. Now, I wanted to also bring up, if you go to wikipedia.com, we're doing our plugs now. Don't forget ReverbNation.com. That's where all the music you hear comes from, except for this. This is from Fruity Loops, for those who use that program. And the references also come from the Holy Bible, King James Version. And he didn't write it, for those who, I'm not even going to go into that. But on Wikipedia, I was looking through some of the functions of gossip, and I just want to list those things. I'm not listing it as truth, but just what they say. Functions of gossip. Gossip can serve to do these things: normalize and reinforce moral boundaries in speech community, foster and build a sense of community with shared interests and information, build structures of social accountability, further mutual social groomings, like many others use language and so forth, so on. Provide a mating tool that allows women, for example, to mutually identify socially desirable men and compare notes on which men are better than others.
That's true.
Be used as a form of passive aggression as a tool to isolate and harm others. Provide peer-to-peer mechanism for disseminating information in organizations. Okay. Do you see any of that as being relevant, or is that a lot of hogwash?
That's relevant. What stuck out to me was that
Dating tool.
providing a mating tool. And from my understanding, I think we have some online comments and questions. We'll get to that. But while he's looking through that, it says provide a mating tool that allows women, for example, to mutually identify social desirable men and compare notes on which men are better than others. Now that's interesting to me because women, I don't want to sell us out, but I'll just say it like this. We do talk about men, we do say what we like, what we don't like, but that can be dangerous when your facts aren't right. Or if a guy hurt a certain lady, she's in no way going to talk about his good attributes. He could have changed. He maybe the two of you just didn't get along. Maybe your personalities clash, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it's something wrong with that guy and that there's no woman out there for him because y'all didn't work out. So there'll be a bias in the conversation, in the presentation of information about the different women, considering those who they're talking about and their experiences with them. So I understand how that is gossip. And it says be used as a form of passive aggression as a tool to isolate and harm others. That seems like really what gossip, the core of it is to paint someone in a certain picture so they can be isolated. And so others will isolate them. And I've noticed that, I think everyone has been the victim of gossip. How people will treat you different, like we said, talk about you, and then you come in the room and everybody gets quiet. Or certain people who used to talk to you don't talk to you anymore. Or when you're around, it's always short comments. It's no real conversation as it once was before. Or may have been. So gossip really does. It breaks relationships. It defames a person's character. It's false. And in the midst of it, while you may think, even if you think you're right and what you're saying is true, the devil's sitting back like, look at these people. I just drop a little something in their ear, let them scratch it a while, and they just break up and they scatter. And so in the end, Satan ends up the one who wins.
It's all a witness. And you'll look up, and that's why even simple things you say amongst people outside of your inner circles and even within your inner circles, certain things you say, emotions are temporary and many times do not last forever.
That's right.
So you'll look up and you'll say something out of emotion. Someone else will catch on to that. They'll come back to you talking about the same person you were talking about, and you'll be like, where'd you get that from? Say, oh, he's such a coward. And you're probably saying it because he wouldn't get you that gift you always wanted, or he didn't get you a ring. But other people will take that as he won't stand up for her, and they'll turn it in and see it in the way that their mind portrays it. So when you just throw words out there and leave it up to the mind to fill in the blanks,
exactly,
you'll look up and this person will have a reputation for just a quick little thing you said. So all of it is a witness, and you have to take great care in certain things that you say around others, about others.
Right, we have a question posted and it says, can gossip be used in a good way as a tool? We have one answer, and the answer is no, from Michael772.
No, not at all. No.
Hey, it's a good
Yeah,
start.
you know what I thought about, and I'm gonna post this as well for you to comment on. I noticed that the functions that we're talking about, gossip has, and all of that. I'm not trying to make this into a different, a kind of war zone or anything. But is there a difference, although I know the answer, when men gossip and when women gossip? Is there a difference in the way, I would say?
I can only make my accusation based on a movie because I don't gossip with men, or I don't want to say I gossip. I don't see men gossip because when men gossip, they gossip with men. I can only come from a woman's perspective. So, well, how do men gossip?
It's to me, really, I think it's the same. In one sense, men have I don't know. There's more. When I think of men gossip, because men don't refer to it as gossip, they refer to it as, I guess, locker room talk.
Barbershop.
Well, barbershop, actually, they do say some true stuff in the barbershop. You could get educated in a barbershop. You get your degree in a barbershop. But, no, I'm jesting. But when men do it, I guess it's about certain things. There's certain things that men will gossip about. I think that just from a male perspective, it seems like the boundaries for men is much smaller than for women. Their broad is baser. I mean, their base is broader. No pun intended. But no, the base is a little bit broader. Guys will, most of the times, they gossip about women and they gossip about themselves. Most of the time, a guy doesn't really give 2 cents about what another guy is doing, so to speak. And he was talking to her the other day, man. I tell you what, when you have that, then there's a different kind of element there, and you thinking this guy's maybe leaning more towards you get what I mean. But no, I think they both do it. There's a difference when men do it amongst themselves. It's almost like they have information that they'll hold and almost just lose interest later on. It's not something that they keep in their back pocket to use as a tool later on. It's just like, oh, okay. So what's on? It's like for the moment it heats up or whatever to a certain level. Speaking of heat, and then it's gone. It doesn't. I don't think it lasts as long. I mean, I could be wrong, but it may just be the circles that I'm in. But
exactly, I think it's the circles that you're in. I think it depends on the man. It depends on the topic. Women, we're very emotional, and a girl can talk with another girl about something that happened. A girl be ready to fight. Ready, like, oh, where's she at? I know. You, like was stated earlier, have part of the story, not the whole story. You have one side of the story, and you're ready to defend something, and you don't even know the whole case. In the circles that I've been in with ladies, we do a lot of, like I said earlier, of talking about someone's intentions and judging someone's character, which is wrong, based off of their actions. You can know a tree by a fruit. You can know a tree by the fruit that it bears.
right.
However, you don't know anybody's heart. You don't know anybody's soul. You don't know anyone's intentions. You can assume it. You can use evidence to come to a conclusion, but you don't know it. And the problem with that, and going back to what we stated earlier, I just wanted to read a couple of scriptures from Proverbs about the tongue. I found a couple of scriptures, and in Proverbs 21 verse 23 it says, "Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his souls from trouble."
And just a side note, that is on the back of the limited edition Scream Life t-shirt, available at ReverbNation.com/Spiger. Go to the Spiger store and you can get your limited edition Scream Life t-shirt with that quote on the back from Proverbs.
Very good. So it says, I'm going to read it again. "Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from trouble." And it just shows how what you say is so connected to your experiences. And then it says in Proverbs 18, I'm just going to read them all and then elaborate on. In Proverbs 18 verse 7 it says, "A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul." And it's interesting because it keeps connecting words with your soul. So that's important. It also says in Proverbs 15 rather, verse 4, it says, "A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit." Then if you move down to verse 14, it says, "The heart of him that hateth understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness."
Okay, you're going to have to read that one again. Feedeth on foolishness.
Fool. It says
Could
the
you
mouth.
please read that again?
It says the heart of him that hath. I'm sorry. Let me start over. A lot of huzz in it. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness.
They're on a foolishness diet.
Mm-hmm.
And the first word in diet is die.
Interesting.
It's actually going to kill you
That's
if
good.
you feed on foolishness. Because, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Foolishness has no nutrients.
None.
It
That's
cannot
good.
nourish you.
That's good.
It cannot do anything for your soul but weaken you.
Mm-hmm.
What can you gain from foolishness when you take it in? You can gain knowledge of foolishness, and that's fine, because you can see a fool be a fool and know that that person's a fool and know the attributes of a fool. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. But do not be fooled. Just because you see a certain kind of fruit don't mean you know what it tastes like.
That's good.
You got to go deeper than what
Oh,
you
yeah,
just see.
that's
That's
good.
still speculation, and that's still gossip. And when you only say it based on, well, I saw this. I saw oranges on that tree, but they were green, and they never got orange. They were green. So what you thought you saw were oranges, but what you really saw were limes. Speculation leads to devastation. Please don't change that station. Because this, I mean, really, we talked about the difference. And right now I'm not seeing if there's a real difference between when men do it and when women do it, other than just what they gossip about. And men will not call what they do gossip. Just like we said earlier, folks who gossip don't call themselves gossips. And you know what? Sometimes it's viewed that way. I was going to ask the question, why? But I'll start off with it. Question, why would a person who gossips not consider themselves to be a gossip? Well, sometimes they don't feel that if I didn't start this rumor, I didn't know it was a rumor. I'm just saying what so-and-so said. You don't know it's a rumor, but you don't know it's the truth either. But you're still proclaiming it. You're proclaiming it, and it is not just residing in your mind, but it is affecting your lifestyle towards that person. And if that's the case, I'm here to tell you now, you are a gossip. That's plain and simple. You are a gossip. If it drives you, you can't let it drive you. Now, we asked the question about benefits. I'm going to let you read a comment from one of our viewers.
One of our viewers, Sai Chino 1, it says the intention of gossip makes the difference. People gossip about things that are true. Interesting.
Okay, now I want to read a comment. We're going to comment on
And
both
then it
of them.
says gossipers talk and listen just to know, and the knowledge stops there.
It stops there. But that's good. That is very good. And what the question that we asked before about men and women, Michael772 commented from my experiences with others. Men gossip to make themselves look good. Women gossip to make others look bad.
What?
From my experience. Could we say that that's true? I mean,
think
just
so.
socially that.
Sometimes.
I can say from my experiences, like I said, men usually gossip about two primary things: women and themselves. And it's usually to make themselves look good. Women's gossip is different, though.
That's true. I actually agree with that, because usually when a woman's gossip, they're really tearing down another woman sometimes, or tearing down somebody. And he ain't no good, and then you'll talk about him and why you turned him down when really he didn't want you. So you'll gossip about him to make him look bad, or to make yourself look good. I can see that. I think.
Now this is a follow-up from what Saichina said, was also that when you hear the truth, it convicts you to action. It convicts you to action. That's what truth does.
That's good.
What does gossip do?
That's good.
What does gossip do?
It don't do that. Not good actions. It convicts you to a bad action.
Okay. We got a quick response. Zaichina said, gossip is idle, a waste of time. It facilitates laziness of character. That's what we were talking about before. It really does, because what Jason said was about the scavengers. They're not working for food. They're feeding on dead carcasses. They sat above, they watched, they're waiting for all the true beasts to walk away from the kill. And once it's been killed, they sit back and they devour off the fruit of your labors. And the thing is about that too, when they get to it, all of the animal is not there. Just what's left of it. When, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The animal that killed, he ate something. The scavengers came and got what was left. So they did not get a full animal. They didn't get all of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. It was just the leftovers. So what does a hyena do? He eats the leftover flesh and he eats the bones, because they got jaws that they can do that. But they're not eating the whole thing. That's not the truth. That's gossip. What gossip does, what I think gossip does, and I'm gonna open this up a little bit more. I think gossip does, like she says, that it is idle, and it only really can satisfy an itching ear. It's like an ointment to an itching ear that just soothes for a moment. It dries, and then your itching ears start itching again. There's no real
Satisfaction.
Especially when you're
can't
scratching
satisfy
it.
Yeah, you can't satisfy.
When you scratch an itch, every time you stop scratching it, the itch increases.
Yeah.
And the desire for you to scratch it again
Because
comes.
what happens? Okay, we're getting into something. What happens when you're scratching? We'll get to that.
What I was going to say about scratching is the purpose of your body scratching is to remove what's there. And if every time you scratch at it, it digs deeper into you, you're going to keep scratching until eventually you are just wounding yourself. Becoming...
That's good. That's good.
Itching ears.
Will wound you. That's good, because that is so true. That's how it happens. Because I know I've seen where people have scratched a mosquito bite or whatever so much that they bleed, and then it becomes a scab, and they're scarred, and it looks like, well, what's happened to you? I just been scratching. What's happening in your life is a result of those itching ears that you've been scratching. Your way of thinking has been tainted. This can be somebody since we're talking on a level of people and ruining reputations, this can be somebody who's supposed to play a significant role in your future, and you can't be a part of it because you have scratched your ears so much that you've damaged the image that you have of that person, and they can't be that to you. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's so important. Just like the scripture, I'm going to go ahead and read this one that everyone loves to quote, but I'm going to read before, and I'm going to read what comes before. It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. What fruit are they talking about? You got to go up a couple of verses, because that scripture is usually quoted in isolation, and you don't really get the full essence of what the proverb is saying. Mm-hmm. So we'll go all the way up to, we're in Proverbs 18, and we're going to move all the way up to we'll go up to verse 12. It says, before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. One more time. Verse 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmities, but the wounded spirit who can bear? The heart of the prudent getteth knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh knowledge. A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but the neighbor cometh and searcheth him. The lot causeth contentions to cease, and parteth between the mighty. Mm-hmm. Okay? Verse 19, it says, a brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city. Mm-hmm. So it's easier to win a strong city than it is to win a single brother that's been offended. Yeah. And their contentions are like the bars of a castle. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Mm-hmm. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Wow. I've just read Proverbs 13, verses 12 through 21.
Amen. Amen to that again. Mm-hmm. I let the church say amen. Amen. One other comment from Zaichina said, "A knowledge." Zaichina, I said that.
You said Zai.
I'm trying to fix it. But no, knowledge that remains idle is worthless, and those who feed on it become spiritually and mentally obese. Those with layers and layers of unusable potential that just hangs there, it's ugly and useless. That's what you call a spiritual glutton. And we look at gluttony as a bad thing in the physical sense, but what is gluttony other than the overindulgence of self-will? If it satisfies me, then that's what I want. It satisfies my flesh, my lust, my selfish desire. I become a spiritual glutton when my itching ear is all that matters, and not the truth that it's supposed to convey. The word's supposed to convey a truth that changes a life. But if what you're doing is not doing that, you're actually doing the opposite by tearing somebody down, what benefit do you get from that? Knowledge is power when it's rightly applied, because a lie, it has an expiration date. A lie can live for only so much time, but it has to be reinforced. It can't stand on its own. Exactly. It has to be propped up by another lie. And then that lie is not going to be able to stand but so long, so it has to be propped up by another lie. And when the truth comes and shines on the thing that's propping that lie up, that's been propped up by so many other lies, then it eventually shows everything to be what it was. And you look back and see, my God, how did I get this far? Operating on a lie. Lies have an expiration date. The truth is going to be the truth. Was the truth before we came into being. It's going to be the truth after everything has been said and done. That's the only thing that's going to stand in the end. That's what we're supposed to be conveying to people. And if you don't consider yourself a gossip, but just a conveyor of information, think of it in these terms. Why is it that I want to convey this information?
Exactly.
Why do I want to be the one to say that such is so? Why do I have to be the one to say it? Is it that important? What do you receive from it? That brings us back to what we were asking earlier. What draws people into gossip? What is it? Does it fill a void? What do you think draws people in? Just, what do you think?
Well, I'm still thinking in the animal sense. I know what draws scavengers to a carcass is the aroma, or the calls made from others who are involved in the action. So, I guess the calls that are made is like an aroma, and it draws you to the conflict. We're drawn to conflict. Like, I know when I'm in school, when there's a fight going on, what draws everyone is the crowd. How many are there? How many are involved? And it's natural for a human to want to be a part of something. So when we see that crowd build up, we don't know what's happening. So I guess in the excitement of the curiosity, you run to it.
Into something, yeah.
You run to it, and it draws you there. When an animal sees a group of vultures scurrying, I mean,
or circling around
a carcass, you see how excited they are. You're like, well, what are they feeling? I need to be involved in that. When you see something stirring up amongst friends, someone's looking at someone else the wrong way. Ooh, what's going on? Why does she have a problem with him? What is causing this? And it may not be a happy excitement, but the excitement draws you.
I think people want to know. I think people just have a desire to know. To know what they're dealing with, to know what's going on. Those who listen to gossip, they want to know, okay, is she shady? Okay, if she's shady, let me watch out for her.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? If he's a thief, I don't want my purse around him. Let me keep my purse because he's a known thief. And people many times really just want to know what's going on. People who tell the information, their motives can appear to be good or they can be bad. If it's to get back at somebody, to tear somebody down, or if it's because they want to make somebody seem greater than they were. There was another comment that talked about even if you try to gossip to someone in a good way, you lie. Oh, John, like you said, John Henry, he took 12 dresses up the 20 stories on his back, and then someone comes to him, offers him a job for something that he's not capable to do, and he's like, wait a minute, what makes you think I can do that? I can't. So it just shows the power of truth, like was stated in the scripture, and the power of lies, because behind it there's power. When you think of power, it's a force that accomplishes a task. So if it's gossip and it's a lie, it will be driven with the power to accomplish a negative thing, and truth the opposite.
I'm gonna comment on something that was just written about it, because I totally wholeheartedly agree. Saichina says, gossip gives the gossiper a sense of omniscience. It is more important for a gossiper to know what is going on with others rather than focusing on what is going on with themselves.
I like
and
that.
I would say that in that same spirit, you've got to be careful, because if your life is the life of other people, not as a servant, but as a God, you've got to be careful what you're doing, because you're conveying information you want control of that person's life, and you with no regard of your own, because I'm taken care of. But I'm gonna tell you what you need to do.
I'm not one of God's.
I'm gonna tell you what you need to do with yourself, because I have all this knowledge about you. Why do you need to know all of this about so and so? Why do you have to know? A sense of omniscience. That's heavy,
good.
because you're it's the same. I would say it's almost on a par with creating your own type of religion, because you know how people will take what they like from this one and take what they like from that one and create themselves a whole thing. Really, what you're doing is saying what I'm willing to do, religiously shopping. But when you get to that point, I mean, there's one thing to be in the sway of things. How, I just, this was going on. I was there, and I'm not really gossip. This is what everybody's saying it right now, and this is what's going on according to so and so. But that thing about omniscience, that's a scary thing to look at. Is
the thing that makes it a gossip is that you don't really care if it's true or not. You don't care. It's you stop there, you hear it, and you just spread it. So that's what's wrong with it, because it's a lack of concern for the truth. You don't want to know if it's true.
That's it.
That's the point there. A lack of concern for the truth.
That's good.
That's what makes it gossip.
Exactly.
To me, that's what makes it
That
gossip.
defines
And I
it.
think it's you want the truth to be within you. To me, and this is just personally, but it seems as if you're trying to take steps towards God. You want
Being
to
like
be like
that's
in stories when you have third person objective. That's the person that overviews everything.
Yeah.
That approves everything, that looks at everything from the outside. And when you say omniscience, that's only God.
Yeah.
And when you try
we
to be
go.
the one that knows when others don't know, you want others to come to you for truth. So you present what you have as if it is truth. You're taking steps towards trying to be God.
Okay, now again, one of our most
Regulars.
faithful
Yeah.
contributors, who I've made a moderator now. That's why your letters are blue. For those who are looking, you understand what I'm saying. But she says that gossip makes you somewhat of a character in someone else's life and gives the gossiper a sense of power and importance, because you hold information about someone else that perhaps no one else does. It is dangerous because if not careful, the gossiper can take on It is dangerous because if not careful, the gossiper can take on one of Satan's main characteristics, and that is he is the accuser of the brethren.
Yes.
An accuser. And if a gossiper is not careful, he or she will find himself being an agent of the devil, first subtle, then full blown. Or he or she will find himself not only talking but judging others subconsciously.
Then in reality, that's what she said next. Then in reality.
That hasn't been finished yet. It's not
Just like
finished.
the devil does not trying to build them up, not trying to make them better. You just accusing, then condemning.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
and it does start off subtle, so.
and it's good that she brought the devil in, because was it not in the beginning? Was that not gossip?
Okay, because that was not
Eating
true.
of this
my
tree,
God.
eating of this tree will make you like God. Did God say
that
that?
is-
I'm sure if that
God
was.
didn't say it.
I'm sure God would have made a mention of that when He
If it
made the
was
tree.
Strong, like,
But
Oh my
then
God.
this snake comes from nowhere, and you're just gonna believe him because of what? Man, you know.
And also going a little further back than that, when he was in heaven, how can you convince a third of heaven that you are going to raise your throne above God's. Come on to my kingdom. Really, you know, so that is exactly what kingdom.
But it's a statement. It's all wrapped in a lie. And who is the father of lies?
Yes.
He keeps it going because his ultimate goal is that ultimate influence. God can speak and it happens. Devil speaks and he can influence as much as we let him.
Yes, that's good.
And if you allow him to say things, or as Bishop G.F. Nesbitt Sr. said in the song Reform, if you let the snake talk in your ear, you'll be operating according to what he says. As Jason brought out, God didn't say that you can eat from the fruit and be like me. If that was the truth, he would have told them. God said it, it's so, it's sovereign. But the devil, hey, he speaks to people. He spoke to folks in heaven. And in heaven, he was able to convince 1/3 of heaven. So you know what's some murmuring going on there. He's going to raise his throne to a place that doesn't exist. And you believed him?
It doesn't exist.
You believed him? And we'll stand on this side, man. Them angels were stupid. If they're going to follow him, they're going to raise his throne above God. Ain't nobody higher than God. Well, now we can get into what he tells people today.
Okay.
And you follow it. Now, I'm not saying that to stir nothing up, but you look into your own life and ask yourself, when you hear something, who told me that? What is it grounded in? What was it founded in? What's the purpose of me knowing this? If it's not to build someone up or to make someone better, if it's not bringing light to people and it's actually tearing people down, if it's just to build you up, then that's a problem as well. What am I doing with the information that I'm given? That's what'll determine whether it's gossip or not. You can stop, the buck can stop with you. I heard something. So what did I do? I sought out the truth. The devil tells me that I can eat off the tree and be like God. Let me go and ask God, who's the subject here. Oh no.
No.
But you're not listening to your creator, but this slimy individual with no arms who's going to tell you about picking fruit. What does an armless individual have business telling you about eating fruit? He don't even eat fruit. But yet and still he's going to tell you that it's okay. And we believe him. That's what Sean likes.
Did any of these other animals talk? That would kind of signal something off to me.
We're just talking snake here.
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. More have come up. Okay, I had to scroll up. Sorry about that. Now, then in reality, a modern day Pharisee, this is from Sai China. Trust this. All these things are part of Satan's plan to make humans desire to be on the same par with God, just like he did, to be on the same par with God. How else will he be able to deceive the world in the end to overthrow him? This goes back to Satan's first lie to Eve in the garden, and the same lie will connive the world that they can be like God in the end. Wake up, world. That was what she said. But I'm saying here because we're screaming life. Wake up. Do we not see this whole gradual thing? He lied in heaven. He ain't nothing but a liar. He lied in heaven and convinced people. And if it wasn't convincing enough to the other angels, see 1/3 of them fall from heaven. There was no trap door. They was tossed out.
They didn't.
You know, they didn't. No, they didn't keep. Heaven didn't keep rising up. They were thrown out. And then you see, I think it's a different reality that you're dealing with in the spiritual. But I believe they can see things that we can't see. And still, we see how the end for people who follow the enemy is destruction. But yet and still, will follow them. If you find yourself following behind something that has no foundation, you're following behind speculation, whether it's about a group or an individual. You got to be careful about that. There are a lot of accusations. You go online, you see accusations everywhere about certain people. And because a person doesn't defend themselves, it must be true.
See, that's what I'm
It must be true if they don't defend themselves. And it goes right back to that, creating a lazy spirit, a spirit of laziness that's going to sit around and put on those foolish pounds that will ultimately, and I won't say pounds, the foolish yoke that will ultimately be your demise. Because if you live in a lie, you'll die in a lie.
I was just looking at 1 Peter chapter 4 and thinking about, I really liked what Sachina said. That's the devil's in it all, and it makes you think of when people say, oh, it's just a little white lie, or it's a small thing, but it's a spirit behind it. It's a attitude that you have. And I remember Sachina also stating that words are a vehicle for spirit. Yeah. And what you say is to bring a certain spirit out of someone, or to impart a certain spirit in someone. If you say words to put down a person's character, you want them to have that, to be what they think of themselves. So the words are so powerful, and God's just really using this broadcast to just show us the importance and how important it is to realize that what you say makes a difference. I'm going to go ahead and read 1 Peter chapter 4, starting at verse 12. It says, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trials which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf. For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of God, and if it first begin at us, what shall be the end? What shall the end be for them that obey not the gospel of God? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? Wherefore let them that suffer according to the will of God commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing, and as also as unto a faithful Creator. And all of that to say that sometimes people are going to gossip about you. This is for the one we've been talking about, those who gossip, those who entertain it. But I want to talk about those who are being gossiped about. The gossipy. When you're a believer, people are going to talk about you. It's normal. If you're not a believer, people are going to talk about you. Period. Normal. People talk about people. Period. But when you go through, you just make sure that those things they say are not true. Because like was stated earlier, those lies, they're eventually going to fall. They can't stay. That's not a sure foundation. When you're a believer and you're a Christian and you have people talk about you and say things about you, if it's true, if it's false, you make sure that you don't allow that to discourage you. Because they talked about Jesus. And some of the things they said about him is like, they blasphemed him. So what do you think people are going to say about you? That shouldn't be something that causes you to go on a campaign to clear your name. God will do that. I remember a time when I was going through a similar situation where I knew people were talking about me and saying things about me. They heard part of a story, didn't know my part, because I wouldn't talk about it. Because I didn't see how the person involved would benefit from me talking about them to others. And I knew people were saying things and talking. So I prayed. I said, Lord, you know what's going on. And God told me, don't worry about it. I'll clear your name. Don't you worry about trying to prove to people that you're real or that you love me or that you're this or that. I'll do it. So as a believer, I just want to encourage those listening that when you find that maybe someone is spreading something about you, you don't have to spend your life trying to prove you are who you are. Just live, be real, and God will show up those who are lying for who they are and show you to be who you are. So it's not your job. You just continue to live according to what He said, and He'll be the one to
That's
clear your name.
really what it ultimately comes down to. You're going to go through things in this life. There are going to be people who talk about you, but the life you live will contradict any lie about you. If someone has something against you, or someone, we're talking about gossip, if someone has some gossip on you and it's not true, you don't have to defend yourself. Your life lived will defend you.
Exactly.
If it's a lie about you, then it will not stand. It will reside in people's minds for a little while, just like news stories, good or bad, will have a lifespan. And what will ultimately come down to it is, okay, I'll have to check this out for myself. The people who really want to know, they'll check it out for themselves. Well, I heard this, but I don't see how that's true with this person. I've talked with them. I've had conversation. I've observed them for years. And that's one thing that I know of an experience where someone was being accused of something, and then the person that the person was talking about came up in the middle of it, and the person, the gossiper, who was talking to someone else, and then the person that was being gossiped about walks up, and then when the person who's being talked to sees the person, oh no, you can't be talking about this person. I know this person.
Know that
the gossiper did not know that the person they were talking to knew the person that they were talking about.
Exactly.
If you have to rewind it to get all of the he's and hers and who's,
it was a lie.
It was a lie. It was a lie. Ultimately, it was a lie that was shown to be untrue by the life that the person lived before the gossiper got the information, and then after the gossiper, information was dissolved. Gossip will come, lies will come, but lies cannot stand. Ultimately, they can't stand. Believers, if you are gossiped about, keep living as a believer ought. Don't entertain it, whether in defense or anything. You're not going to stand up for yourself? No, I don't have to. I don't have to entertain it. I got too much going on in my life right now to entertain foolishness. I don't enjoy it.
Eat it.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat that.
We had a comment.
We had one other comment I did want to make sure I said. It said gossip can be used for good with refining. That's why we have journalists and reporters.
Azure D.
Azure D wrote that in. Thank you, Azure D, for writing that in. But that's true. When you take the piece of it that you know,
exactly,
that's the whole point of it. That's a very good point. When a person is, I guess, does that for a living, takes a piece of the truth or piece of information and seeks out and researches to get the rest of it, then you have a story.
There you go.
But if you take the piece of information and fabricate the rest, dealing with, I guess you could call it froth, because it's not really what, it's just air. It smells like the real thing. It has no satisfaction to it. It's no substance. It's gossip. So it can be used as good if it's a lead to lead you to the truth. But if that's what you base anything on, and if you build on it, then it's not going to stand. And with that, we want to thank everyone for coming out today. It was a different kind of shoot. But again, you know, we want to keep in mind our purpose here, and that is to scream life while we stream life to the world. In words of benediction, I say, what I say unto one, I say unto all, watch as well as pray. Now to the King, eternal, immortal, and invisible, to the only God be power and glory forever. Amen. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, remember that this is life. And this life that we live, we only have one shot at it. So don't waste yours. I want to thank all who we had on the show. We had a song in the beginning by Aaron Marquez called Stand Strong, Reverb Nation, y'all. Jason Moss, Fears, Face My Fears, Reverb Nation, y'all. Big up to Chinko, CEO of Iron Sharp Entertainment. But now we have to leave. The song that he sang was Walk On By. I want to thank also all those who were live with us. To Azure D, who came in, for Michael, Zaichina, all who were able to comment on it. We do appreciate all that you've said, all your input. This is going out to the world as we scream life to these dry bones. See y'all next week. Same time, same channel. Peace.